Hi, this is Brian from MeUnlocker.com, and we're here today with the Motorola Droid 4 to give you our full review. Now, this is an evolutionary upgrade from the Droid series. We started with the Droid, the original Droid, back in late 2009. Since then, we've had the Droid 2, which was very short-lived and quickly replaced with the Droid 2 Global, which was essentially the same phone but offered a SIM card slot for other SIM cards, so it could be a global roaming device. Then we had the Droid 3, which also kept the global roaming capabilities, and then now we have the Droid 4. With the Droid 4, the most noticeable changes are that it supports Verizon's 4G LTE network, which is nice, but then at least for right now we lose the global roaming capabilities. And the reason I say right now is because there's a rumor that this phone somehow will be enabled for global roaming using a little bit different technology later on down the road, but for right now that's hearsay and I can't substantiate that. But this phone does offer some additional improvements in the areas of design, keyboard, and which kind of goes into design, but then you've got performance, and the performance is going to be a big one for this device because this is quite a step from the Droid 3, and I'll explain why. So you can see we've got the Droid 4 here on the left, and we've got the Droid Razr on the right, and you can see that we've got some of the same styling cues, and Motorola is doing this with all their new devices, from the Razr to the Zyborg tablets to obviously the Droid 4. We've got this tapered kind of bevel edge here, which they're now kind of branding, so all their devices kind of have the same look and feel, which is definitely nice to see. We do have a different screen size between these two. You can see that the Droid 4 has a 4.0 inch screen, whereas the Droid Razr has a 4.3 inch screen, and the Droid Razr is a traditional LCD panel, so you can tell it looks a little bit more washed out. Everything kind of has a bluish tone to it. And it looks, if you compare it next to the Droid Razr, it doesn't look very appealing. But on its own merits, if you're not staring at the Droid Razr, it actually looks pretty good. It's visible really well in sunlight. Have not had a problem with that whatsoever. So the screen on the Droid 4 is adequate. It's not exceptional by any means. But it's definitely, if you compare it to other devices like the Motorola Droid Razr, the Samsung Galaxy Nexus, the HTC Resound, even the LG Spectrum, there are better screens out there, and you're not going to be buying the Droid 4 for the screen. What you are probably going to be buying the Droid 4 for is to have the full 5-row QWERTY keyboard hidden underneath the screen. And it's an exceptional keyboard. I've heard some people say that it's not quite as good as the Droid 3's keyboard. I'm here to tell you that based on my experience, it's exceptional and surpasses the Droid 3 keyboard, which I touted as the best keyboard ever put on a mobile phone. I now give that nod to the Droid 4. The only thing that we don't like is this caps lock key right here. I really wish they would have left it as a shift and then a function key down here to choose your symbols. Some of the keys are just not placed where you really would think they should be, and it's kind of difficult to get used to it at first, but ultimately it's not that bad. It's just a little bit of a learning curve. It's a little bit different design, but not all the changes are necessarily a good thing. I don't think that people use caps enough to have it be its own dedicated button, whereas pressing the shift key twice essentially gives you caps locks. So that's really my only complaint about the keyboard itself. With the backlit keys, and I'll go ahead and turn the lights down real quick so you can see the keys light up. And if I can get it to turn on here, there we go. You can see the keys light up once we don't have a whole lot of light, and it is quite a bright keyboard. And I can tell you this looks absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if the camera is doing it justice, but it's a huge stretch from just having the individual letters and stuff lit up. Having the entire keyboard like this with the side lit keys is absolutely tremendous. The only downside to this is if you're using this in bed or somewhere dark, that keyboard the backlight cannot be adjusted, and it is really bright. So if you've got automatic brightness turned on, you're going to notice that the actual keyboard can be brighter than the screen, and it's not really a huge complaint, just something to take note of. Alright, carrying on with the design of this phone, that nice tapered edge is seen on the front here, and it kind of carries over into the back and has this nice curvature on the sides here, which actually makes the phone really nice to hold in the hand. It's a far cry from the other Droid phones where it always kind of felt like a square brick in your hand. This definitely feels much better. It does have on the back a removable door. However, the battery is not removable in this model, so keep that in mind. The door does come out. You insert a paper clip or a little tool that they give you here, and the back cover pops off, and then you have access to your micro SD card, or your micro SD card and your micro LTE SIM, and those go underneath the door, but you do have protective covering over the battery saying not to remove it, you'll void your warranty, yada yada yada. On the right side here we've got the volume rocker. On the top we've got the power button and the headphone jack. On the left side we've got the micro USB and micro HDMI ports, and on the bottom we just got a microphone pickup. You can see here the chin that Motorola phones are so accustomed to having is gone in this model. So overall on the design, I really like this design. If you watched the Motorola Droid Razr review I did, I was very harsh and very critical of that design, and the reason was the screen was 4.3 inches, whereas this is 4.0, so it's definitely a smaller screen here, but there's a certain feel to it. The Droid Razr feels too wide and honestly too thin, whereas this device, it's obviously a little bit thicker because it's got that keyboard, but it has a really nice feel. It has a really solid build quality to it, and overall I'm extremely impressed with the stylings and the design of this phone. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about performance to wrap this up. The Motorola Droid 4 is a rival in terms of performance to the Motorola Droid Razr and the Droid Razr Max. That is important to note because the Droid 3, whereas it has similar specs, the Droid 3 had a 1.0 gigahertz processor and this has a 1.2 gigahertz processor. Not a huge change there, but this has double the RAM. So we now have a device that's got a gig of RAM versus 512 megabytes of RAM. So it's a big difference, it's a big improvement, and it really feels that way. Out of the box, maybe you won't notice it as much, but once you get some apps that are running in the background, all of a sudden a simple task like going into your alarm clocks like this. I've done this, I can't tell you how many times with my Droid 3, and it would just be very laggy, and you hit your alarm button and it takes 5 or 10 seconds for that to actually load, and then you press on this and it might take 5-10 seconds for each alarm to be set to where you're not sure if you actually pressed it or not, and it really was a problem across the board. And if you had a lot of things running in the background, the Droid 3 was going to be very slow, very laggy. This is not the way that is whatsoever. You can see I've got quite a few apps on here. I mean, page after page after page of applications. Oops. And you can see that I've got, quite a number of things loaded on this device, and it still runs very quickly. Haven't had any real slowdowns or lags to speak of. So it's definitely been a solid performer. It's $199, which is the same price as the Droid Razr, so you're not going to lose anything there in terms of performance. You're either going to spend $199 and get the Droid 4 with the slide out QWERTY keyboard, which is absolutely impressive. If you haven't actually tried this keyboard, if a QWERTY keyboard is at all important to you, I definitely recommend that you go and you try this out. It's hard to ignore how well this actually works, and this really sets the benchmark for QWERTY sliders in terms of what the what the actual performance and what the feel of a QWERTY keyboard should be. Now you do lose some things. You lose that screen. This has a standard TFT with the pin tile matrix arrangement, and it's not really that attractive of a display. But if that's something that's not hugely important to you, then it's something that definitely can be overlooked. It's not as beautiful as a lot of the other displays that are out there, and really some of the displays are really just kind of, I mean, it's a big selling point for devices that have, those HD displays, or even the Droid Razr that's got that QHD display, but it's got that Super AMOLED technology in it, and it works really, really well, and it looks great. This is a step down from that, but you do get the keyboard. But performance is going to be the same. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. Obviously, you've got a thinner device and a thicker device and that kind of stuff. So you've got some decisions to make, but at least you know that with this phone, you're not getting some second-rate smartphone. This is a top-tier, top-shelf smartphone, and it's priced pretty aggressively at $199. And if you're a fan of the original Droid line and you've kind of seen the progression, maybe you had the original Droid and then you saw the Droid 2, Droid 3, and you haven't been impressed at all, this phone with the 4G LTE radio, which is phenomenal radio, gets much better reception than my Galaxy Nexus does. It's definitely a solid performer. I definitely recommend that you go check it out. This is Brian with theunlocker.com, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.